This may seem like your regular glass of cold beer, but it was brewed by this woman, Celeste Beatty, the first African-American woman to own a brewery in the United States. Her brand is called Harlem Brewing Company, and with it, she attempts to capture the legacy of Harlem and flavors of Africa. Take the 125 IPA, named after Harlem's famous 125th Street.
It's just a very vibrant corridor from east to west of retail, of culture, of organizations like the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Teresa Hotel, the State Office Building. That entire street is just full of stories of marches. It's really celebrating and not forgetting what 125th Street has been.
But she's doing more than just celebrating Harlem. She represents a revolution in the craft brewing industry, just by being in it. Picture a typical beer commercial. Yes, there's that nice chilled beer, but let's get past that. Picture who's drinking the beer. Most likely a pretty homogenous group. There may be that occasional black beer drinker, but the representation we see in beer commercials accurately represents what the craft beer industry is really like. In its 4-decade history, the craft beer industry has remained a predominantly affluent white male industry. Celeste estimates that African Americans own less than 1% of all U.S. craft breweries, and surveys suggest African Americans made up only 10% of weekly craft beer drinkers in 2016. These low numbers are a result of a long history of discrimination in the alcohol industry in the U.S. From the late 1700s to the late 1800s, laws were passed across several southern states that forbade retailers to give, sell, or deliver alcohol to any enslaved or free African Americans. In the 1920s and 30s, white Southern prohibitionists claimed that, quote, liquor gave Negroes the strength to repudiate their inferior status and that it also encouraged them to attack white women. Therefore, it was imperative that it should be denied them. But Black Americans have a long history of brewing beer, spanning back to Peter Hemmings, who took over malting and brewing at Thomas Jefferson's plantation, Monticello.
Even though we brought our traditions from Africa and we brewed beer for Thomas Jefferson and various people that enslaved us, we were never able to actually open the breweries. We were never able to actually be the entrepreneurs early on. So there is no tradition of owning breweries, of owning bars, because of that discrimination. And I don't know if I would say the discrimination continues that blatantly today, but I think the biggest barriers is a lack of capital. We just don't have it.
Celeste represents a shift in the industry, not only as a Black brewer, but also one who's unapologetically Black, representing her heritage with every beer flavor profile. Like her Renaissance Wit, which won the Best Brew of New York City in 2018.
I grew up in the South, as many of us migrated from the South to Harlem. It was all about flavor. We were always competing who had the best banana pudding, who had the best, chicken, beef, So the Belgian style, Harlem style is really about adding more layers of flavor.
To add those layers, she uses a surprising mix of ingredients, including coriander, cumin, grains of paradise, which adds a peppery taste, and orange peel.
So it's high citrus, low hops, a lot of spiciness, and it's been received very well. The next steps for us is to get the brew pub open here in Harlem with plans to do a few other locations. And my interest in that is to make sure that some part of the company is owned by the community. But I really think in this world that we live in, we've got to find a way to get people in the community not just working there, but they've got to have some equity in it.
Good evening, and welcome to a new edition of Urban Sentinel Live. I'm your host, Reggie Kearney, and I got a great show for you tonight. All the way from North Carolina tonight, we've got the master brewer Celeste with us tonight. And we're going to talk about her run in the beverage industry, especially as a beer entrepreneur, for the lack of a better word. Couldn't think of the word I wanted to use, but she's doing her thing, and it's good to see a Black woman in this field that's getting so large with many craft breweries throughout the country. So I want to welcome Celeste to the Urban Sentinel Live show. Harlem Brew, what's up? How you doing?
Hey,
Celeste?
what's brewing?
Your
Thank
beer,
you for
your beer.
welcoming me to the show. So excited to be here.
Yes, and look, I'm in Maryland. As we talked yesterday, I'm in Southern Maryland. I can't find your beer. Come on now, you got to come to Maryland. Hit the DMV, the district, Virginia, Maryland. Hit us. We want your beer.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting back there. Before everything changed in the world with the pandemic, we definitely had some presence in the area, and we're looking forward to coming back. We are in Virginia, making
Okay.
our way back to Maryland and DC.
Okay. Now, for our listeners, what part of Virginia are you in right now?
The beer?
Yes.
Oh, the beer is pretty much throughout the state. It's in
Okay.
The Richmond area, the Tyson's Corner area, Lynchburg, Virginia, pretty much all over. But wherever you can't find it, because we are licensed in Virginia, as long as you let us know the location, we can get it there, whether it's a bar, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a grocery store. So we would be able to actually get the beer delivered and sell it anywhere in the state of Virginia.
Okay, that sounds good. I might have to drive over to Tyson's Corner one day, or the next time I'm in that area, see can I find it. Get me a couple cans.
I
so
think
I can
there's a Whole
support you.
Foods near there. There's a Whole Foods in that area. I forget the name of it. Oh gosh, starts with an A. But there's a Whole Foods in the area that has it, and then the Hyatt Hotel has it. You can get it there by the can to go, or you can get it inside the restaurant there. Yeah.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Now tell me, where are you located at now? Where are you doing business out of now? Where's your home office and your brewery now?
Well, I have been here in Rocky Mount since 2018. We opened up a small batch brewery at the Rocky Mount Mills here in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And then we transition out of that during the pandemic into a renovation project of a tobacco warehouse. So we're currently finishing up the renovations to actually get a brewing system delivered later this month to hopefully get open over the next few months once all the permitting and stuff is done. So that's the operation here, Harlem Brew South. And then we still also sell in New York. We don't currently brew in New York anymore. We moved that operation to New Jersey, but we still have a big presence and a lot of support and love in Harlem. Melba's Restaurant, Sylvia's Restaurant, Amy Ruth's, Whole Foods, various bars and restaurants, Spoon Bread on 110th. A lot of our accounts that have been really supportive for more than 20 years now, still very much on board. We're very happy to know that they're up and running again, and very thankful for their support in New York. My son, Corey, is working on a project there in Harlem. He lives in East Harlem, so he's old enough to drink beer now. He wasn't when I started this, but so he's in New York, handling that and continuing the relationships we have in Harlem and around the city. And I'm here in Rocky Mount, hometown of Thelonious Monk and Buck Leonard. Amazing city, amazing town, wonderful people, beautiful place. So I'm mostly here working on this project and just really connecting with a great community here in Rocky Mount.
Yeah, and just put a little plug in for myself. I'm from North Carolina myself, Franklinton, North Carolina. That's my hometown. Went to school in North Carolina, so hey, I know all about North Carolina. I know all about Rocky Mount. We used to hang out a lot down there when I was in my college days, okay? A long time ago. Long ago.
That's great.
Memories.
Memories, yeah. A lot of memories.
Yes. You sound great. A dynamic entrepreneur. You're a dynamic entrepreneur. So tell me, how did you get on this journey?
Wow. Oh man, it's a combination of a few things. I love gardening. I like growing stuff, perennials, annuals, food, flowers, fruits. My grandparents are from, on my father's side, are from Wilmington, North Carolina, just
Okay.
down the road from here. So they had a farm. They grew tobacco, corn, tomatoes, had chickens, pigs, pretty much everything on the farm. So as a young person, I gained an appreciation for farm life, farm the table. We hear that a lot, but we got a chance to really experience farm the table because we literally would help harvest and were the recipients of all that good stuff that they
Mhm.
grew. And we saw it go from the field to the table. So that's always been something that I've appreciated. I was a future farm of America here in North Carolina, learning about plants and trees and animals. So I've always had a real love for just getting my hands soily and dirty and smelling the earth. How does that relate to beer? I love cooking. I grew up Southern tradition, hanging out in the kitchen, dipping my finger in the gravy and the
Mhm.
sauces, and just taking in all those aromas. And I like cooking with beer and wine and different things, experimenting. And a friend of mine said, why don't you make your own beer? I was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, is that legal? Turned out that in the 70s, President Jimmy Carter, laws were passed. I think he just celebrated a birthday recently. Laws were
Mhm.
passed while he was president that allowed people to to brew small batches of beer and wine. I did not know that, but once I found out it was legal, a friend of mine gave me a home brewing kit when I was living on 123rd Street across from Marcus Garvey Park. At the time, I was learning about ice cream, working with and helping a
Mhm.
friend of mine who opened up an ice cream shop, Ben and Jerry's on 125th and Fifth Avenue. This is in the mid 90s. So just really looking at, how beer is really cooking. I could use my mom's soup pot, clean it out really good, pour water into the pot, follow a recipe, add my grains, steep it, let it get all those flavors and sugars out. Either let it sit out with airborne yeast and eventually ferment, or adding a particular yeast depending on the style to get the flavors and the type of beer I was trying to make, whether it was a lager or a pilsner or golden ale or wheat beer like our Renaissance wit. So I was just like, wow, this really is cooking, but can't enjoy it immediately. Got to let nature and science take its
Mhm.
course. You got to let the yeast kind of just get into the wort, as we call it, and eventually over time that yeast consumes the sugars and naturally carbonates and converts it into alcohol. It's like, oh wow, that's how you do it. I don't need a degree for this.
Mhm.
So it was so similar to cooking, except you needed to be a little patient to let that conversion happen. But I think the thing that made me fall in love with brewing is when I had a chance to learn about that history. The fact that, wow, people look like me actually make beer. I never saw that. I saw the Clydesdales, I saw
Mhm.
all the bearded guys brewing beer and in the brew house, but I'd never seen anybody that looked like me in this country brewing. I had a chance to travel to Africa, and I actually saw women all over the place and men brewing the traditional beer. So I was like, wow, this is fascinating. I took on a whole new level of excitement and interest when I was able to learn that these are traditions that we've had a long time, thousands of
Mhm.
years. Tradition was broken when we were brought here enslaved. We kind of got disconnected, but we still continued aspects of those traditions when we arrived or when we were, brought over here, stolen,
Mhm.
moved, however you might want to characterize it. When we came to these shores as enslaved people, we still had those talents, those abilities. When you talk to people all around the South, I'm sure you have a story.
Mhm.
Everybody has a story about how their uncle or mom or grandma made beer or
Yeah.
made wine or made moonshine. So for me, it isn't just some
Moonshine.
right. They made something, but you look at it, these are
Uh-huh.
techniques. When you hear them describe it, nothing's
Mhm.
written down, but they describe the cheesecloth, they describe the yeast, they describe the
Mhm.
mixing, and all that you can see in Africa. You can see it all over in
Mhm.
various tribes and various techniques. So for me,
Mhm.
it's not a coincidence. So I was like, wow, I really got excited about it. So that's that was kind of my journey, learning about the steps, but also being
Hmm.
able to immerse myself in our history and this, and then share that and connect the dots back to our families.
Oh, okay. Mark was saying that his late great uncle made dandelion wine. Lord have mercy. I wonder how
Yeah,
that tastes. And my
yeah,
grandfather,
yeah.
you
I
know,
hope he has a recipe.
yeah, and my grandfather made wine also. I remember as a kid, he would make his own wine. That was some strong wine too. You wouldn't put that. There's probably more liquor than wine, really, because they let it
Right.
ferment for so long and
What
everything.
did
So
he make it from? What
he
grapes?
did grapes. He made great
Okay.
wine. Yeah, he made great
Yeah.
wine.
These are
Now,
great
um,
stories. Yeah.
who has mentored you through this process? Okay, when you got into it, being the fact that you were in a new industry where there weren't a lot of blacks at the time you got in. Who was your mentor? Who did you go to say, "Look, this is my desire. This is what I want to do. I need your help. Show me."
Well, as you said, I didn't know any black brewers at the time. It's, aside from the stories you just shared,
Hmm.
grandma, mom, uncles, there wasn't anybody in my community that I could reach out to. I do recall reaching out early on to Garrett Oliver at Brooklyn Brewery just to kind of let him know what I was up to. But he's a very busy guy. It was impossible
Hmm.
to reach him. I've most recently gotten to know him, but I really wanted to reach out early on to makers, people that
Hmm.
look like me. When I found myself in Africa, in South Africa, I had a chance to connect. That was after I started brewing mostly. I think from a business perspective, right before we launched, when I decided to move from home brewing to actually bottling the beer, I reached out to all of the top CEOs, African Americans, just to see, maybe they'll get back to me. But I really wanted to get some guidance from them. That may have been a big reach, but they did get back to me. Ken Chenault from American Express. Who else? Dick Parsons. These are all guys in
Hmm.
New York, just to kind of get our brand out there and put it in front of them. And what was interesting is they actually did write back. They reached back with advice. I also sat down and met with Reverend Calvin Butts. He is
Oh,
a
okay.
minister, but he was very involved with development and entrepreneurship in Harlem. So I had a chance to sit down with him, Percy Sutton, all of those leaders and people in the community. They were accessible. They were completely open to at least sharing a few minutes, giving some advice. And Percy Sutton was probably one of the most impactful people
Hmm.
that I met with, because he said, "You know what? I like what you're doing. You got to get out there and just do it. Just keep doing what you're doing." I don't remember the words exactly, but he was saying that's the way I started. That's the way I got involved. I just had to get out there. I was determined. I was passionate. So just keep that passion. So wherever I could reach out in the local community, other entrepreneurs in the Harlem area, 125th, Fifth Avenue, up and down 125th Street, just connecting, by to work together and encourage one another.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And you had some heavy hitters out there that had a lot of business knowledge, especially Reverend Kevin Butts. I mean, he's been out there on the forefront in New York, really pushing entrepreneurship in the black community and everything. And that's an awesome thing. Now, he was talking about, when you first got started, how, you would make a little something, something, something for your taste buds. And then you realize too that it's a process. Okay. So from the time you started mixing ingredients to make your beer, how long is the process to make a good tasting beer before you take it to market?
Well, the process in terms of making beer, depending on the style, can be a couple weeks to a month or so.
Hmm.
Most of the beers that I was making at the time were beers that would ferment within 2 weeks, maybe a little more than 2 weeks, depending on the climate, the condition, the temperature. In terms of, if you're asking me how long did it take me to finally feel comfortable thinking about taking my homebrew recipe and bottling it. That involved a lot of feedback from different people. Restaurants, Sylvia's restaurant was one of the first restaurants that actually expressed any sincere interest
Mm-hmm.
in what I was trying to do. Because some people, they were like, yeah, right. Good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
But Mrs. Woods and her family, they were extremely receptive to the idea. They were open to seeing what it was I had to offer, tasting it. And they were the first account, as people have heard me say over the years, they were the first restaurant to give us an order. And
Okay.
they really embraced the product as part of, who they are as a family, as strong entrepreneurs, as people that were embedded in the community that left the South and came to Harlem. They were very open to supporting other entrepreneurs. And that was a very important thing for me to have gotten that account, because it didn't just put our beer on the menu and give us a sell. It gave us so much exposure and so much awareness because of the people from around the community and around the world that would visit and patronize that restaurant. It was amazing. So that was a very important step in terms of us finding a way to just really get launched.
Great, 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 great. Now, this question popped up in my mind. I'm very interested in answering you this question. How do you develop the different tastes of the beer? Because, you got a lot of, craft brewers around there. You go and they got all kinds of tastes, all different kinds of flavors of beer, I meant to say. So how do you develop the different the different flavors that you want for your beer?
Well, we have a beer called Harlem Renaissance Wit. It's a wheat beer mostly, about 80% wheat, 20% barley. Beers, most of the styles do traditional beers from the continent. There are no hops there traditionally, so that was not an ingredient for earlier beers.
Mm-hmm.
But as beer has developed for many, many years, hops have been incorporated to give a little bit of bitterness, citrus, the balance, the sweetness in beer. So it plays a very significant role in the beers that we know today. The wheat beer, Belgian style beer, we call it a Harlem style Belgian style, because in addition to the typical ingredients that you taste in a Blue Moon or Allagash or these other wheat beers, I love cumin. I love the smell of cumin. I love the aroma of cumin. I also love a spice, Grains of Paradise, which is a West African spice. It's like a peppercorn, but it has some spicy, citrusy, unique flavors to it. I like cooking. So when you cook and you learn the brew, you're familiar with what the spices impart in your stews or your fish or your meat. So you kind of get an idea of the aroma and the flavor. You think about blending those things. You get to do that in beer. You're like an artist. You're taking a canvas, the beer itself, and you're thinking about, what is it that I like? You go to your cabinet, you pull out the allspice, you pull out the cinnamon, the cumin, whatever those things are. You can do that with a beer. There are some beer styles that those spices may not necessarily connect in terms of the flavor it imparts. But you literally, when I started brewing, I didn't have all the ingredients that a typical, oftentimes other home brewers, I just have what was in my cabinet. I had the allspice, I had the cumin, I had the coriander, and you just start blending those things, just kind of testing it out to see what happens. So in our wheat beer, we added cumin. One, I love the smell of cumin. Do you cook with cumin?
No, I don't.
And I love the aroma of it. And there was something about the aroma and the smell that just kind of set off in my mind. I was like, wow, what if we took a layer of that cumin, blended it with that coriander and Grains of Paradise? What does it taste like? You could blend it, smell it, and taste it. So I was like, that might be an interesting combination for this beer. So you just try it. You're going to do a 1 gallon batch or 5 gallon batch. You're not going to do a huge batch. You test it out in a small batch. So really just kind of thinking about the flavors that you love, thinking about all the great food I grew up with, hanging out in the kitchen, those fish fries, that
Right.
mac and cheese. I don't do a mac and cheese beer yet, but it's just something about being able to learn the flavor profile and the aromas of what you grew up. And
Mm-hmm.
then you think about what might that taste like in the beer? What can I pull from that? So I lean on that a lot when I think about beers. I mean, there's so many different styles of beers, but you can kind of lean on things that you love, flavors that you love, and also you talk to your friends, you talk to your family, you let them taste, talk to other brewers.
Mm-hmm.
You think about what can I pair the beer with? How does a wheat beer goes really good with seafood. An IPA, which is very hoppy, is great with spicy foods. Our Queen Stout, we have chocolate and coffee in there. There's a lot of different things you can do with the different styles of beers that you have. Today, I was on a phone call talking to a business advisor of mine in New York because we were getting our chocolate from Haiti, but now with all of the conflicts there, we can't get chocolate from Haiti. We're trying to source it from either Ivory Coast or Ghana. We were
Mm-hmm.
going through this whole conversation about how we source some of the ingredients that we want in our beer. So there's a lot of different things you have to think about when you're cooking or if you're making something like beer. What are those ingredients? Where do you get them from? So there's a lot of different ways to kind of arrive at a flavor, but there's a lot of experimentation. That's the beauty of craft beer. You can kind of take it in the directions that you can get excited about.
Okay. Now, how many different flavors do you have at this time?
Right now, we have available our Harlem Renaissance Wit beer. It's the one I just mentioned, the Harlem Renaissance Wit with the coriander, cumin, grains of
Mm-hmm.
paradise, and orange peel, single hop, Saaz hop. So it's not a very hoppy beer. It's light on the
Mm-hmm.
hops. We have our 125th Street IPA, which is a West Coast style Northeastern style IPA. A lot of hops, not very juicy, but it definitely has a lot of citrus, a little sweetness of the malt. Um, Really nice, smooth beer. We have our Queen Stout, which is a chocolate coffee stout. It has coffee from Haiti, Kenya, and Ethiopia, all black-owned coffee shops, New York and North Carolina. And then that's a dark, stout beer. You think
Mm-hmm.
Guinness, you think other stouts. So it has a lot of deep chocolate flavor from the roasted dark barley, but it also has layers of actual chocolate and actual coffee. So it's very, very rich. We have two recent collaboration beers. We have a hazy IPA, a lot of juice, a lot of great aromas, a lot of really wonderful flavors. Black is Beautiful Hazy IPA. That is a collaboration we did with a campaign that started with George Floyd movement. This volume 2 version of it supports Black brewers through the National Black Brewers Association, Hazy IPA. Then we're doing another IPA. IPAs are very, very popular.
Mm-hmm.
The other IPA we have, I actually left it in the freezer. It's kind of frosted over, but this is our India Pale Ale, our West Coast style IPA, celebrating Josh Gibson
Okay.
and Buck Leonard. So it supports the Josh Gibson Foundation, Sean Gibson in Pittsburgh, and the Buck Leonard Association here in Rocky Mount. So brewers around the world can brew this, then they donate $1 per pint directly back to those foundations. So we
Okay.
have that. Then we're releasing our Harlem Lager in the spring. And we're also canning our first beer we launched was a Golden Ale, the Harlem Sugar Hill. That's now going to be launched in November in a can. It used to be in bottles.
Okay.
Those are the current styles we have. And then we just did a collaboration porter virtually with Oak Park Brewery in Sacramento. And I'll be there next week to can that beer with the Oak Park Brewery team in Oak Park in Sacramento, California. There's a lot of collaborations and stuff going on too.
Okay, good. Now, you were saying that you're part of the National Brewery Association, Black Brewers Association. How many black brewers are out here now in the country now, you think?
Uh, it depends on how you define it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing more and more black and brown home brewers. That's a very important part of how you emerge and evolve in craft brewing is learning the homebrew, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just out the Great American Beer Festival last week, where there were about 10,000 breweries there from all over the country. I didn't see many of us. There's just not many of us out there. Quite a number of us are trying to get to the next step. We're trying to get from home brewing to contract brewing to owning a tap room and a brewery. It's a big leap sometimes to go from home brewing to owning your own brewing facility. One, capital; two, location;
Mm-hmm.
and a few other things. But I think the biggest hurdle is definitely capital. It's less than one, probably less than 0.5% of the brewers are black and brown. Just really not many of us, and most of us use, as we do in New Jersey currently, because we're no longer brewing here in Rocky Mount, waiting to open up our own space. But most of us do depend on the support and consideration of breweries that aren't owned by us. They allow us to utilize their extra capacity or to
Mm-hmm.
utilize their facilities to brew our recipes. So currently the majority of our breweries have those types of collaborations for production. We just do not have the space, the capital, primarily capital, to do it in our own communities. That's one of the reasons why we need the National Black Brewers Association, which is supporting our project here in Rocky Mount. They're
Mm-hmm.
supporting several other projects around the country to bring breweries to our communities.
Yeah, it's like when we were talking, I was saying the young man in my neighborhood in Waldorf, Maryland, Patuxent
Patuxent,
Brewery,
yeah.
that's out there and everything, he's growing, slowly, but he's still open, and that's the main thing.
That is the main thing,
yeah.
because several of the black brewers that I know, the few we have shut down.
Right.
Three of them I know have shut down, and you think, wow, we don't even have that many, but to lose three,
that's a lot. Three is a lot.
that is a
lot. Small industry for blacks. Now, how can we support you? How can we support the brewers? The black and minority brewers with funding. How can we support you guys other than buying your product?
Well, there's several of us. We have an ongoing, it's kind of been dormant because we launched it right before the pandemic for our Harlem Brew South project. I think we got near $50,000, and unless you reach a certain level, those funds go back to the investors. If you don't reach, so we were close, and then the pandemic wore on. It was just hard for me personally to ask people for money. I'm like, people are just trying to survive. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't feel comfortable making those pitches when I knew people weren't even sure how they were going to get a mill. So it just kind of dwindled there for a minute, where we may relaunch it. So if you look out there are a number of breweries like ours that have these WeFunder or crowdfunding campaigns where you can get a percentage of equity or you can get a percentage of sales, depending on how it's set up. Crowns and Hops Brewery has probably been the most successful Black-owned brewery campaign in California. They've raised, I think, more than $1 million through their campaign, and I saw them at the Great American Beer Festival. Their campaign continues. I know at least 5 or 6 really solid projects where people either bought land, own property, and they are engaged in trying to raise funds. So our campaign is WeFunder.com, Harlem Brew South. That's for our project here. And I'm sure the National Black Brewers Association, nb2a.org, we'll be sharing information on that website about how you can support the organization through donating, and also learning about some of the breweries that are doing these different projects. So I would definitely say stay in touch with the nb2a.org. That's NB, the number 2, the letter A.org. And certainly stay in touch with us at Harlem Brew South, Harlem Brewing Company.
Okay. Now, how many employees how many people do you employ at this time?
Most of the stuff that we do is outsourced. It's me.
Okay.
It's my son, my brother, now my grandson. With the project we'll be bringing on board here in Rocky Mount, we'll have about 30 employees.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Awesome.
It's a 14,000 square foot historic tobacco warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
It is historic in that more than 10,000 black leaf tobacco workers here in North Carolina, Eastern Carolina, they had to vote in this location for better work and better pay in 1946. We did a collaboration beer called 1946
Okay.
to commemorate that vote.
Mm-hmm.
So working with the OIC, Opportunities Industrialization Center, they have allowed us to get this space in their building. It will have, we've already been using it for events as we lead up to installing the brewing system, but they collaborated with us to make the space available. It will have a training program for anyone in the community who wants to learn how to brew, learn about the industry. So we're expecting to have about 30 people there. And as we branch out, eventually we'll probably open up another couple locations, depending on where those opportunities come up.
Okay. Now, I know when we were talking yesterday, you were talking about, getting black farmers involved in the growth of wheat and hops and barley and all that good stuff. How can they get involved if, in the Nigerian area, if they are able to do so?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I was literally on the phone today with farmer James Brown. His name is James Brown. I love it. In Virginia, his cousin, Charles Jewell, who's also a farmer in Virginia, they're going to increase the acreage that they're growing to 20 acres barley. So they'll be on board this year. And then we're talking to 2 other farmers here in North Carolina about growing. In terms of how they can get involved, they can certainly reach out to us at harlembrewsouth@gmail.com. That's harlembrewsouth@gmail.com. We are in the month. Anything that's planted for next season has to be in the ground by the end of this month. Mm-hmm. We are, through our relationship with Riverbend Malt, which is here in North Carolina, we're providing seeds to farmers that want to grow the grains. We've also been able to identify a grain washing facility in Zebulon, North Carolina.
Okay.
Because that's the key thing. What happened the first year, we ended up with all these grains, and it was a beautiful thing going to Virginia and harvesting the grains, putting them in the bag. But the problem was those grains didn't have a facility to go to. You have to wash the grains. Mm-hmm. We had a little problem in the warehouse because it sat there, and we ended up not being able to use the grains that we got because we had no place. Nobody wanted to offer up their facility. So we corrected that. We finally found someone. Luckily, those grains did go to the pigs, but they didn't go into our beer. But so we've now gotten it set up where any farmers within 2 to 3 hours from where we are, they're able to participate in the program. So if you do want to reach out to us, you can also call me at 917-728-9293 to get more information. And we'd love to have anyone who wants to grow grains, minimum of 10 acres. If you have less, you can still grow them, but the washing station might be a little challenging. But just reach out to me on email or the phone number. If you know anyone who's interested this year, even next year, we'd love to talk to you. And let me just add this. The whole point of this is really, when you look at the craft brewing industry, we use thousands of pounds of grains for these beers. 500 pounds, 1,000 pounds, 2,000. I mean, it's a lot of grain. And there's a lot of our farmers don't know about this. They don't know that they can, diversify their crops and add, barley or sorghum or other ingredients that we use. And what's also incredible about it is, if there's only a few black brewers, so
Right.
it's about opening up doors for black and brown farmers to grow the
Mm-hmm.
grains to sell to brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Us and other brewers have told me, look, I'd love to buy grains from black farmers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be able to support them. So we're trying to make them aware that this is an opportunity where you're not just throwing seeds in the ground and hoping you'll get an order. No, these orders are being locked in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Like the grains we have going in this year, those 20 acres have already been sold.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we're
good.
trying to make sure they have some assurances that they're not going to be stuck
Right.
with grains. Yeah.
Right. Now, Mark was asking a question. Have you teamed up with the National Black Farmers Association?
I have reached out to them.
Okay.
I've been in touch with their staff. They said they'd be getting back to us. I think this probably a 2024 opportunity for us to collaborate. But yes, we have reached out to them so they can get the word out to see who may already be growing grains or who might be interested.
Right.
Absolutely.
I tell you, I wish I had some farm equipment because we got some farmland down in Robertsonville, North Carolina, Martin County.
Really?
Yeah, that we just my uncle just rented it out, to people in the area. I wish I had a tractor or something. I'd be out there tilling the land and planting seeds.
Well, it's interesting you should mention that because there are people, like you said, that have the land that like to do something with it, but they don't have access to the equipment. So I met a young lady who's growing cotton just down the road in Whitaker's, I believe.
Okay.
And she is working on an equipment kind of program where we can share the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need a combine or a tractor, you already got the washing station.
Right.
We can make sure that's available for people that have the land but may not have the equipment. So I'm happy to put you in touch with her if you want to do something with us.
That sounds good. That sounds great. Anything to move the business along and everything. Now, what type of relationship have you built with HBCUs as far as selling? I know it's hard. You can't do a lot of beer selling on the campuses and stuff. But what have you done with them? To market maybe to the alumni associations or things of that nature.
Well, it's a touchy subject. It's been on again, off again. One of the most amazing moments for us was when 2 years ago, maybe it was 2019, or maybe 2020, I'm not sure. Whenever the year, I think this is the first year that HBCUs and colleges are full-time back in the stadiums, maybe post-pandemic.
Right.
But the day that we got the agreement with A&T State to go into their concessions, I was like, wow, this is it just meant so much to me as a graduate of Shaw University. And the fact that this is one of the most amazing universities when it comes to agriculture and technology, and so much to have that relationship and to have them see the value and opportunity, despite it being a beer, where there's students that work with Harlem Beer Distributing, one of our partners. They helped us put together the distribution plan, a strategy. They helped put that together. So it wasn't just about how do we get beer on the campus.
Right.
Again, how do we engage the students in this industry so that more of us get the opportunities, whether it's running a bar, running a freight company, all those different things along the food chain. So we got them, and then we also talked about doing some projects with them, and then we also got North Carolina Central. We did some stuff with their concessions. We're working on that again right now. We're actually talking to both of them. Central. We're actually talking to both of them right now. And then what else? HBCUs. And then to my shock and excitement, my own alma mater, Shaw University, did a beer garden last year. I was like, oh, wait.
Okay.
What? So something is happening here because we were actually on the campus during homecoming last year with beer. I was walking around the whole time like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. But anyway, so it's an exciting time, particularly post-pandemic, with us all getting back up and established again to see all the possibilities for our community in this industry, not just having a good, tasty beer, but all of the stuff that happens around it, from the farming, grain to glass.
Great. Now, My brother went to Shaw University. He's a little younger than me, a couple of years, and my father is a graduate of Shaw University.
Oh wow!
Way back in the day, way back in the
Okay,
day. So,
okay.
so that's awesome that they're able to, HBCUs are getting on board and coming along with you to continue to help you drive your vision. So that's great and everything. Now, are there any licensing opportunities for organizations? Say, I'm an alpha, so say that the alphas wanted to do, say, a beer can that has Alpha Phi fraternity on it. How would they go for licensing with you?
I would love to do that. I think some years ago I reached out. Maybe it was too soon to a number of fraternities, sororities, and maybe they just didn't see it. But I would be more than honored to do. See, I was an alpha sweetheart, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I'd be more than honored to do those types of projects.
Oh, okay. So we had to talk about that offline and everything. I tell you, I have learned some awesome information here tonight. What you're doing is great, and now let me ask you something else, and this is probably gonna be the last question. Do you offer any type of internships, or will you be offering internships in the future to people in the that major in business or things of that nature to learn more about how to manage businesses and what to do?
Absolutely. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested in getting involved. One of the biggest challenges, we're still a relatively small company, is that we just don't have the bandwidth to cover it all. I mean, this is very event intensive. There's like weekly tastings at Whole Foods or Food Lion or Harris Teeter. This weekend we'll be in Charlotte at Total Wines. There's only one of me, so we've been trying to get more people involved with some of the tasting stuff we need to do. There's the Johnson and Wells Family Weekend, Bayhaven happening. So it's a highly social business. So anyone who's looking to get behind the scenes of what it takes to, you can can the beer and brew it. That's the easy part. But how do you get it into the hands? How do you say the right things and tell the story and connect the dots to people so that they'll embrace it? That is the part that I would love to work with 21 and over interns that have a knack and love for marketing, for branding. Any of that would be great because I don't know it all. The social media stuff. I just got a TikTok account recently. That's not my area. But these younger people, they get it. They're writing the codes. They're doing all that stuff. So I think there's a lot with the talent we have in our communities. It's immense. I would love to look at ways to partner, collaborate where they get value financially if possible or experience. The great thing that I've enjoyed about these demos, as we call them, when we go into the grocery stores, you meet so many amazing people. Just having a beer. You find out about the community standing there talking about beer and having that exchange. You learn about the community. So it's a great networking opportunity. It's a great way to learn about people that are right in your communities, and that inspires a lot of collaboration. So that's the piece that I would love to be able to share with 21 and over individuals that are interested.
Celeste and Reggie, I just came on board as your producer just to make you a little bit jealous and all along those lines, because I actually went into the refrigerator over at the Hayti. I'm not actually going to drink it because I'm at work, but as I told her, they are a sponsor of events at Hayti. So we have a copy of the drink here as well.
Cheers,
I just thought I'd share that with you since you don't have one in your possession. So I thought
I know. I'm gonna have to go over to Tyson's Corner one afternoon. And I might just do it this weekend, when I'm out and about,
We've got to get together, guys, and have a beer. When are we gonna do this?
Hey, okay, so it's got to be on me the next time I come to North Carolina, I'll hook you up. We had to meet. We'll probably just meet down at your brewery one Saturday afternoon.
That's fine.
If you're not out doing taste tests, okay, and everything, have you had Sandra yet to do a taste test for you?
Oh, well, no, but she's come out. I will see her on Saturday because we'll
Mhm.
be in Charlotte at Total Wine. So she's going
Okay.
to come out. She's
Okay.
been amazing.
Yeah. I tell you, Celeste, this has been awesome to interview you tonight. You know, we got another interview coming up because with our magazine, Urban Sentinel magazine, we're going to do a feature article on Celeste and Harlem Brew for our January,
Thank you
February.
so much. Wow.
That's
So
amazing.
then we're going to try to work on some other things that we can do some collaborations on, you know, because we in the Black community, we have to work together to push each other, okay? And sometimes it's not about the money, it's about just pushing people for exposure and things of that nature to get them out there and so they can get the exposure, you know. And that's how we're going to do it, you know. We got to help each other.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, Reggie, just really quickly, I don't know if you saw the chat earlier, but one of the things that I know, because they are sponsored a number of events here at Hayti, at the Hayti Center, so they are definitely a major supporter. But one thing I will say about Celeste, as well as some of her other affiliates, is that they do a lot of organizations that work together. Because I do know for a fact that she has teamed up, and some of her people have teamed up with Gwen Hurt, who has Shoe Crazy, and a number of other things. So there's a lot of that kind of collaboration that you're talking about. So they will do events. They've even done some events here at the center where they will be. I think it's I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he represents Celeste, and then Donald will be representing Shoe Crazy. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so they will be representing and selling stuff jointly and all along those lines. So that kind of collaboration that you're talking about is something that I know Celeste does on a regular basis, and it's something that I know that she's very proud of, and all along those lines. Just as I get ready to dance out the door, and I know you're going to end the show, as I was looking at research, Celeste, I saw that there was a school in Cincinnati that actually got an NIL deal, and it was a beer company. And so I was wondering if that was something you had ever explored, because that's those like deals that athletes are doing. And I saw that it was a company there, one of those other craft companies, probably owned by those other folks, and they had got a NIL deal. So I was just wondering if you had been thinking of that when he was talking to you about the HBCUs.
I have been researching that a little bit. I know Jamel is working on some possibilities, and it's definitely an area that we're interested in for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, Celeste, I tell you, I have really enjoyed talking to you tonight. We have been talking with Celeste of Harlem Brewery, one of the leading, and I'll say leading, Black brewers in the country, and one of the few Black-owned breweries in the country. Okay, and so you know, we just got to highlight it. We just got to put it out there. And she gave out a whole lot of information tonight. You know, especially for in North Carolina, in that area. I'm very familiar with the area where she is in Rocky Mount. There are a lot of farmers in that area. You know, there's opportunities. If you're a farmer listening tonight, or if you're not, you know someone who has land that might want to get into growing the ingredients for beer, please reach out to Celeste and let her know, you know, so you can get involved, you know. So please do that. And if you're in areas where the beer is being sold at in North Carolina and Virginia, please go out and support her. If you had an HBCU game at North Carolina Central University or North Carolina A&T, buy a beer, okay? Even if you don't drink, just give it to somebody who drinks, okay? But support her, okay? Support her. This is a growing business, and we need to be in the business, okay? So it's a great opportunity for a lot of people and everything, you know. So let's tell everyone how they can, your website, so they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so Harlem Brewing Company is www.harlembrewing.com. That is the company we started about 23 years ago. And here in North Carolina is Harlem Brew South. Both of those are also on social media, Harlem Brewery and Harlem Brew South. Love to be in touch with you if you're interested in anything that I've mentioned tonight. Please be in touch. Reggie, thank you so much. I am so glad that Sandra put us together, and I look forward to sharing a beer with you.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to get it. I'm going to let my brother know, tell all his friends, to tell all the Q's that you out here selling some beer, okay? And I'll tell my Alpha brothers in North Carolina and Virginia to make sure they support you, okay? So look, until next week, everybody, please be safe out there. You know, just keep praying. You know, we're living in some tough times right now. Like I said, go to the website that Celeste just gave you. Look up her business, support her. Let's support each other, okay? Until next week, next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. This is Reginald Kearney with Urban Sentinel Live saying, have a good one. Take care now. Good night, Celeste, and we'll be talking, okay?
Cheers to you, Reggie.
Okay, take care
Thanks,
now.
everybody. Bye-bye.